during this lesson, we're going to talk about the basic holds and grips we utilise when employing the Tomahawk in combat. Now, to begin with, you need to understand there are different length handles available, and as a consequence, the grip we employ is relative to the weapon we're utilising. We're going to start off with this short-handled Lagana Tomahawk. So it's short and light, fast. Now, normally it would be stowed in my equipment in some way or shape or form. One of the first things I do is pull it out in this T-shaped action. Naturally lends itself to be drawn out of my equipment like so. The handle and the shaft are basically smooth, so there's no obstruction to being caught up. So if you like to have a piece of cord around the base of your Tomahawk, just be aware that that might be something that inhibits smooth drawing. Once I hold the weapon, it comes out, I naturally put my index finger along the side or the cheek of the blade. Why I'm doing that is it allows me to now point and shoot, much like we do with instinctive shooting concepts. So I'm ranging and targeting very much with my index finger guiding me to the target. So in terms of assessing range and distance to target, that's moving, and you need to keep in mind that all axe combat is totally mobile. We don't stand there in one spot. We don't do drills like you do in a martial arts hall. It is very dynamic and it's very moving, okay? So it needs to be something that I can keep good perspective of in terms of where that cutting edge is going. So with that, I can cut in a slashing motion, or I can stab, jab with the blade. That's the first hold we're going to look at. This is called a choke hold. I can do it with any size hawk and on both sides. If I turn to use the spike edge, the only difference is, and this is a personal preference, I drop into a fist because this is a small spike and there's good potential that I'll end up with my finger being damaged as I'm punching the spike forward. So I turn it into a fist and allow the spike then full penetration potential. Being a spike, whilst it can be used to slash, it's much more user-friendly to have it stab and thrust into the target. Okay? The use of gloves in this case now becomes very, very obvious. If I move, even in training, and this target's moving at the same time, I've got high potential to have my fist hit the target whilst the spike's still penetrating. Often on a board, on a rolling stick like this, it'll roll off and I'm losing skin. I'm losing bark. Okay, so this is the use of the spark here. Okay, so that's the choke hold. The next hold is a half handle hold. So we're using half the overall length of the handle. It allows me now to move into much more dynamic striking. Now I can impact in blunt fashion with all the kinetic energy being transferred directly into the target, or I can slash either way and move across the surface of the target, opening it up as I need to. Right? But remember, it is an axe. It is designed to penetrate into the body, into the target. As a consequence, that hold is very, very good for providing the balance of leverage and kinetic transfer into this target, okay, whilst at the same time affording me good mobility. If you can imagine a full-handled axe that you'd cut wood with, if I was trying to hold that in the middle, I've got this long handle here that's working in against my body. So the short handle design removes that. So I can move very close into my opponent and be almost on top of the handle, and it is not in any way restricting my movement. Okay, so that's a half-handled hold. When we move out to a full-handle hold, it's more leverage from my point of view as the wielder, more energy from the kinetic side being passed into the target, and I can move at an increased range. So it's allowing me a lot more versatility to get to the target but keep my distance from any weapon they might be wielding. Right? And I guess most people envisage utilising the weapon system that way. When you bring in the concept or the reality of dynamic fear, dynamic stress onto the battle space, the further away from the target, often the more comfortable we feel. As a consequence, I can extend my reach with the full handle hold to its maximum potential. Okay? A lot of people are just simply not comfortable being this close to a target or enemy. So that's the short handle axe or short handle tomahawk. If we move to a larger hawk, we have the same basic holds. Choke hold, utilised the same way. There's no real difference in terms of how I utilise the hawk in that choke hold position. Half hold, same deal. I'm getting the same benefits we just discussed. Now this is a longer handle, so I have some beginning impact into my range of movement here, but not anything significant enough to deter its use. So as I'm moving here, I'm getting good transfer of energy into the target, fairly good speed, and this is where we start to get that problem of overextending. At this point, because there's more weight, more leverage here, I've got more potential to have this position, exposing myself to the enemy. I'm done. Okay, so I need to work my body through control into ways of bringing that weapon back into the play quickly. So overextension is something we're going to talk a lot about during the course. It gets worse when I get to a full handle hold. Now I've got great range. I can be almost 1.5 meters away from my target, but at the same time I'm a lot more slow. The arc is a lot bigger, and it's a bigger problem if I miss my target. I really open myself up here, and the handle is heavier. To try and bring that back into the fight takes a lot more effort. If I, by comparison, look at the smaller handle, when I move with this guy, I can bring it back very quickly because I'm not maneuvering great leverage or great weight. So I can bring it back in when I miss. Okay, glancing blow, missed. I'm already able to circle that back around and bring it back into the fight. With this guy, when that happens to me, I've got a lot more weight to deal with. It shifts my body weight too much. Okay, so I can do it. It comes at a higher price. So it's understanding a weapon and knowing its characteristics, knowing its dynamics by constant repetition of practice. The longer handle though can help us deal with that issue. By being longer, we've got the ability to wield it with two hands, a double-handed hold. Now, as I'm moving through, I can do all the same things, including use the handle itself to parry and hit. I can actually still use my body to hook and hold and to move the whole thing. I've got two hands now to deal with the issue of overextension. So we're going to talk a lot about core training during the course. That'll help you develop sufficient control of your body core so that if you miss over here, you can turn it back up easily, as opposed to being left in this very, very exposed and vulnerable position if you miss the target. Okay, either way, both sides are not a good potential for us as the wielder of the axe. So we want to be able to hit and recover straight away, okay? Either with the spike or with the actual cutting edge, boom, boom, by turning and twisting it up. All right, so we'll have a look at those during the course of the course. Now the last thing I want to leave you with as a training tip is we can shift the holds dynamically throughout the fight. We might draw the weapon, start this way. Straight away we might move into two hands. The distance closes, back into one hand, or I need to push someone away. Okay, I can also use the head of the weapon in a thrusting, stabbing motion, underhand, overhand. There's a lot of weight in that thing, and it's going to transfer a lot of impact. As you mentioned, I can use the butt in a less offensive way, to hit someone with the butt or the haft of the handle in this fashion, and I can even have glancing blows to protect myself as I'm moving out of the way with the handle itself. Okay. Primarily, we're looking at steel into target, but it's dynamic. It shifts throughout the fight, as we said. Go from close to far, back to close. Whatever's appropriate, you need to be able to be dexterous enough with the weapon system to apply it.